like a weird mind's eye trying to. Hmm. Okay, so cut it. Left, right.
AG William Barr is preparing to announce the completion of the Mueller probe.
Mm. Screenception. Not bad. Almost there. This much. Scooch. Ooh. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Almost there.
That's okay.
All right. Yay.
You got it to work. Yay!
This has to change. Discord has to go back to working the other way. Oh my god. Notes. I didn't get the link to the notes, sweetie.
I already sent them to you.
Where? Email?
I shared it. Email, yeah.
I need permission. Oh, because you
Yeah.
sent it to.
I sent it to V.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I
I'm
sent
logged in as Geek Grill, so that won't work.
it. Well, that is problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So many identities.
I know.
Okay. Oh,
Uh,
should share
have
other
we
stuff.
been? Yeah, I was about to say, have we been shared? I mean, I only have 160 followers, but still.
Pardon me.
Bless you.
Darn it.
Bless you again.
Live now. Not now. Posting on Facebook. And Twitter, not Titter.
All right.
Yeah, username and password I have for Heresy and Hearsay in my stored in my computer don't work for Twitter.
That's okay. I just shared it
Okay.
because you shared it on Facebook. It automatically posted it to Twitter
Okay. Cool.
on mine. So, and I just, sent it out. So if you want to do a where you retweet. I know.
Looks like I already logged out of my Twitter. I'll log back into my Twitter. Okay, it's shared from you, not Heresy and Hearsay, though.
I know.
I'll
I
fix
know.
that next time. All right. Notes. 39. Perfect. Atheism. Disbelief or lack of belief in the existence of God or gods. Atheist, noun, atheist. Plural noun, atheists. A person who disbelieves or lacks belief in the existence of God or gods. Noun, agnosticism, is the view that the existence of God, of the divine or the supernatural is unknown or unknowable. Agnostic, noun, a person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God or of anything beyond material phenomena. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. So now with that out of the way, let's talk about Let There Be Light.
Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast reclaiming the faith through political discourse. I'm Reverend Barney. You can follow me at Seth Roth II. You can follow the show via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and now we're on iTunes podcasts and other podcast suppliers. Just look for us at Heresy and Hearsay. Hearsay. Wow, that I went southern for a second there. Okay. Please share, like, follow, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating. It really helped out a great deal.
And I am September, also known as 9 of 12, and you can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12. That's NINEOF 1 2, and hear me on the Geek Grills podcast and on Trust Your Cape. Don't forget you can call us and leave a voicemail at 980-858-2243.
You can also find us on Patreon at Patreon/Heresy and Hearsay. A simple $2 a month helps keep this humble podcast and webcast going. So now let's. So what we've decided to do as part of the show is we're going to look at movies. It may not be a monthly thing. It may be just when we're things are slow in the summer or whatever, and hopefully Trump like hibernates in the summer so we don't have to deal with him. But or it may be a monthly thing. It just depends. But basically, we're going to take a look at movies that are propaganda movies for Christians and talk about them in detail and go over them. We'll make some jokes and stuff like that, but we'll be honest about it. We'll have honest opinions. We're not going to immediately downgrade these things just because they're Christian propaganda, because they may be good points in these movies that, if done properly, would actually be a good message. But the first movie we're going to look at is Let There Be Light, which is basically, I guess you would call it a passion project. It stars, it's co-written, co-produced, and directed by Kevin Sorbo. You may know him more famously from the legendary Adventures of Hercules and Andromeda. He's been in other things as well. And lately he has been doing a lot of these style of movies. I wanted to bring him up, and his wife is a co-writer, and Sean Hannity is an executive producer of this movie. We'll avoid that at all costs. But
why?
Yeah, because, well,
I mean, we're supposed to be talking about religion in a political context.
Yeah, admitting it is Sean Hannity, and there's nothing more religious and political contexty than Sean Hannity. So I just wanted to avoid it for this moment because I want to talk about Kevin Sorbo for a second.
Okay.
And full disclosure, I have met Kevin Sorbo, and he was a perfectly wonderful gentleman. I have a couple of autographs from him. I met him at a convention. Very nice man when I met him. Very, very kind, and giving to the fans. So I have to give him that. Um, he is a bit problematic when it comes to his Twitter feed, and that's he's not a he's not horrible all the time. There's times where he'll talk about his shows or stuff like that, but when he does dip into politics, it can be it is definitely right wing. He talked about how the Democratic women were out of touch with America when they at the State of the Union because they didn't make a motion or make a sign or anything about abolishing late term abortions. We will eventually get into that discussion. I know that is something we'll have to talk about. Um, and so but there are other things that he has said in the past that is problematic. So I wanted to get that out of the way and say that any praise that may be heaped onto this movie, any statements that may be made on this movie of good things, we're not ignoring his problems. Okay, we're addressing the movie as itself and looking at that, and I wanted to be fair and clear about that before we started. So you watched it this morning. I watched it last night. What is your, let's do overall take, and then we'll do a final analysis at the end, and then we'll kind of discuss the things that bothered us as we go through the movie. So what was your overall take of the movie?
Um, it was all right. I mean, it had kind of a lifetime movie scenario, a very
Mm.
tropey, story. It just had the Christian element shoved in there, right?
Right. And it
Guy,
and
guy is hard done by God and loses his faith, and then he's being an asshole, and then he gets redeemed because he finds Jesus, and he gets everything back, and then he's tested again. I mean, pretty predictable stuff.
right. And I agree with that. I will say this movie is not badly done. It's not badly executed.
Oh, the
The
production is
direct
good.
Yeah, the direction, I'll have to say that Kevin Sorbo has an eye behind the camera for the most part. His children can't act, but and by the way, in the movie, his wife plays his wife, and his children play his children, except for the son that we'll get to in a second because it's good that he didn't have to choose one of his children to be the dead one.
Yeah.
Um, so, but his other children, they're not actors, but they're okay. Um, and overall the acting is solid, the movie is solid, and I have to say Kevin Sorbo can act. He does have some acting chops. He
Mm-hmm.
does have some ability. You feel for the character.
His
So
wife too. She was quite believable. I mean,
she
especially
was, she
if
was,
it's not a professional actress or whatever.
yeah. So it starts off, and this is and I messaged September when it first started off, is like, so the opening credits start with scenes of 9/11 and other terrorist attacks.
Yeah, they laid heavy on that, didn't they?
Yeah, and we and I'll get to this in a second, but yeah, and the soundtrack. I will say this, for all of the niceties that I have to say, the soundtrack's horrible.
Oh,
It
it's
is just,
terrible.
it's
And
just
the worst offense there was like this really well written bit where he's trying to reconcile with his wife, and he uses two quotes he uses a Dylan quote and a Leonard Cohen quote, and he just uses Hallelujah, and then they go into a song that's not Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. It's some piece of shit love song that some studio band did that has the word Hallelujah in it. Like I, I'm like, no, no, you can't do that. I mean,
No,
just change the line or something. What are you doing?
and they're trying to sound like Leonard Cohen. They really are.
Oh,
And
just for
here's
like the first line, and then it drifts off into, you know, Christian band territory.
and not even good Christian fan. Look,
No.
I am a fan of some Christian rock music. I'm a huge fan of Petra. Saw them 3 times in concert. I loved Petra. Okay, so but here's the thing. And I wrote a note about that. It's like I'm a Leonard Cohen fan. I saw him live on his last tour. An amazing artist. Hallelujah is a song about a love gone cold. Not the best thing to quote when you're trying to get your wife back. And the
Yeah.
song, the
Just
song behind
twisted.
this, the song behind this scene, trying to rip off a Cohen and failing horribly.
Right?
I'm just,
I
I'm
mean, leave
just
his
like,
name out of it. Have some respect. Like, you pretend he was talking about the shitty song they're going to actually play in the scene.
yeah, something, yeah, because poor Leonard Cohen. So I'm like, and Leonard Cohen was a very spiritual man. He was Jewish, but he also had a lot of Buddhist in him, and he was a very spiritual man. I don't think he would have, if they asked him, he would probably let them use his music. Maybe, I don't know,
I think he would
but
have appreciated how out of context it was and said,
that's true.
no.
Well, to be fair, let's back up and then we'll get back to the
Okay.
movie for a second. But they used Hallelujah, and it was what was her name? Katie Lang did a version of Hallelujah, and they used that for the Olympics up in Canada. I'm just saying. Did they take out all the stuff about sex and stuff? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like, so yeah, it's been used in
And
non
that's another interpretation or reinterpretation in another artist. It's not like directly quoting
yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, the leaning heavily on ISIS. Now, actually, I don't have a huge problem with that. They weren't as. They could have gone a fear mongery route with that.
They could.
Especially considering Hannity's involvement. That would have been real easy. And they didn't. I feel like it was just an in context. It's something some people know. They did not misrepresent ISIL's actual philosophy about conversion through, just kill everybody who won't. That is actually their very much core in their methods and their beliefs about what should happen, restore the caliphate and be done with, all this stuff, and have acted that way in the world. And so it was a point of reference where the message the movie was trying to get across was there's a better way to fight when you're angry and you're hurt and you're upset and you don't believe. Well, you can let there be light, and the whole thing with the wife and her dealing with her tribulations with grace and still wanting to spread light and keep that optimism. I mean, I think those are admirable traits in faith in general. I don't. I don't subscribe and practice faith in that way, but I can appreciate it as just being a good thing. I mean, I have a problem with proselytizing. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't think it's right, and it has led to way more harm than good. But shining a light and letting people come is just being a good human. Whether your intent, to me, it's, intent about spreading goodness, or, I mean, if you need to give it the bring people to Jesus, that's what organized religion does. And that's what they're trying to do. And I think their messaging was on point for that, at least.
Well, and so just so that our viewers know, because we will kind of go through this in chronological order here in a moment, but I think we should. But two things that bothered me about it is that how they were just discussing the app with the person who basically created the app, who was a from Pakistan, former Muslim individual who came to America, and her story. I think that I understand part of why they were doing that, but I think it undermined the ISIS versus Christianity, and it kind of started veering towards Muslim versus Christianity
Mm,
with that statement, with her,
I
with
can,
that
yeah,
character.
I can see that. Um,
And so I think they kind of dropped the ball at the very end. I mean, because it's the very end of the movie where the last few things come out, and she comes out and does that. The app, I what Kevin Sorbo and them say when they're talking to Sean Hannity is like, "How dare you, say this, trying to force your faith on others." And the religion, the app, basically all it does is it allows you to do the countdown and everything, and if you want to talk to somebody about Jesus Christ, you can. I've always been the type of person that if you want to talk to me about my faith, I will let you know in advance, hey, I'm a Christian. If you want to talk about it, fine. If you don't, we don't have to. I think that is a form of a proselytizing because it leaves the door open, but it's not being forceful. It lets the other person see how you are as a human being and see, well, that person seems to be doing okay. They seem to be, that there's letting your light shine, and that is, to me, is showing that you're a good person throughout.
sure.
And some people may ask, why are you that way? And it may be, somebody may say it's because I'm a Christian, or somebody is, and just say because it's a good thing to not, kick puppies in the gutter. That's a cruel thing to do. I'm using that as hyperbole, but helping people out. And the other thing about the app is that it raised money for the local food banks, to the person who was using the app. I think that's admirable, and I think it proves a point that a lot of these movies fail at. Is
But I
is
don't
that
think
being?
what I don't think
Hmm.
what you do is an attempt at conversion, which
Mm-mm.
is what the primary definition of proselytizing is: an attempt to convert someone.
I mean, if someone came to me and asked me about my faith, I'm going, and wanted to have a discussion about it, and were interested, yeah, I would try to convert them. But
Really?
it's not. But I'm not going to force that. I'm not going to force that conversation. I'm not going to
Right,
force
but I
that
mean, you
on some.
understand what I'm saying. The attempt to convert, like, that implies you have knowledge that they have no faith or are of another faith, and you're going to try to convert them to yours. You would do that?
If they're legitimately interested in it, yeah. I mean, it's one of those situations, like, let's say you came to me and it's like, look, we've been doing this show for a while and everything. Tell me why you believe. Tell me why someone else should believe like you. Where you find your faith through all of this hardship. And
Do
I'd
you
be like,
understand the word convert?
"Mm,
Because
I mean,
that's still not what you're doing. Converting is like explaining to somebody how, no, no, you're wrong. I'm right. You should do it this way. You're
mm,
converting them. Their converting has to do with their behavior, and that's where I have the problem with proselytizing. Yes, if you go to secondary definitions, it's more that shine your light, explain yourself, be a good example. But the whole practice of is the whole door knocking, conversion,
mm,
dropping pamphlets, making these movies, drawing comparisons, like you were saying. They yeah, they probably did go too far using an example of a Muslim woman, but they
mm,
didn't go ahead and say her family was ISIS. They just let it be implied about the cultural difficulties, and
right,
so equivocated the Muslim faith with ISIS, which is not accurate. So they
right.
just weren't careful enough with that. I don't know if that part was on purpose.
Right, and that's again. It may have not been on purpose, but and I'm not accusing them of that. And you may be right that my idea of conversion is not the textbook definition of conversion. Um, I don't believe in because here's the thing, my view on faith is very specific. I guess we'll have to address that then. My belief is this, that it's and a friend of mine brought this to my attention, and I'm going, huh, That makes sense. Um, is it's a spoken will. Okay. My belief in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior is because my puny little human brain cannot understand the infinite, cannot understand the majesty and power of omniscience. So it formulates it into a way that I understand it. And someone else may understand that through Allah in Islam. Someone else may understand that through I have a friend of mine who worships the Greek pantheon. I don't know if she does all of them, but I know she worships several of them. I have friends who are pagans who worship different gods from different pantheons because that's how and I use puny brain, but that's how our limited knowledge of the infinite can formulate it. And I feel that if and Lewis, C.S. Lewis, and I talk about him a lot. C.S. Lewis kind of helped really cement that. Last book he wrote for the Chronicles of Narnia, it's called Last Battle. There is a Calorman who is a follower of Tash, who is the antithesis of Aslan. And the character is like, he's in heaven with Aslan, and Aslan looks at him and says, like, every good thing you do, everything you good act that you did, and the act of Tash you did to me, every bad act that is done in the name of me is an act for Tash. And and so
It's not lifted right from the Bible or anything.
no, it's not. It's not lifted. It's not. But it's basically, to me, it formulates the my belief that if you do good, I am. And in my one of my religious classes, we talked about this. Is like if a Jewish individual does good, and I remember this is Catholic college, so if they do good and they're a good person and they show the traits and everything, they will end up in heaven eventually. They may have to spend a little time in purgatory first, but they'll end up in heaven. So even some of the Catholic beliefs are that if you're a good person, you do good, you do the best you can as a human being, you'll still end up in heaven, though you just have to kind of wait a little bit. I don't believe in purgatory myself. There's no biblical beliefs there's no biblical fact to purgatory. So but I do believe God will judge you on your acts. God will judge you on your heart. God will judge you and make that final decision. Now, because I believe in Christianity and I'm a Christian doesn't mean that if I'm a bad person that I get to go to heaven. I know that's what Christianity says, but on the same thing, if you're a good person, you try to do good and everything, that's fine. If you fail, and everybody is not, and nobody's perfect, as long as you're attempting to do the good thing, the important thing. But if you claim to be Christian, if you said that, I've taken Christ as my Lord and Savior, and then you go out and do horrible things, no, I don't. Yeah, I can't conceive horrible human beings that are not truly repenting, claiming repentance.
Yeah.
Because again, and that's something from last week. So
Yeah. People can go back and listen to that. I am shocked to hear you not feel like that C.S. Lewis line is Matthew 25, period. That you do for the least of my brothers, you do for me.
mm-hmm.
Purgatory in the Bible, I was raised Catholic. No, they don't use the word. The church coined the word, but references to a process by which people get their comeuppance are indeed in the Old Testament, and that's where it was drawn from.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure it's just I've had that debate. I don't think there's to me, I don't,
I'm just
you
not going
got,
to let you stand on that's not in the Bible because I
Okay.
was given Bible stuff when I was taught it.
Okay, so I apologize. So there is a reference to it, though it's not named that. So that's fine. Okay. I apologize. So and that's why I have you here, to make sure that I don't go off on the rails on
Yeah,
some
I'm
weird
no
tangent.
bitch.
That's okay.
It's okay.
All right. So let's talk about the movie for let's go
Sure.
through it a little bit.
Okay, can we
So
talk
first,
about the product placement?
I didn't even really notice the product placement. I was too busy.
Oh, well,
Besides, oh, besides the wham, the wow, the sham wow.
right, which they use a different name, so that's not really product placement. Um,
True.
but they have in his apartment, because he's a writer. It's the whole thing. The plot, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, he, the main character, is a very very famous atheist writer, um, and he's got all these books, and he's got like book posters of his book covers on his walls when you go to his apartment.
Yeah, that's not egotism.
And right, but one of them is Hercules, and I forget the subtitle, but it's they make a Hercules poster with his face on it and make it like it's a cover of one of his books that happened to be named that. This is a dude that said Hercules on TV, and it was just so like his egotism of the real person apparently just had to get in there. It was really weird and blatant. I was like, why would you do that? And then I like the second time they walked past it, I noticed that they had turned it into, oh, it's one of his books in this world. And then of course Fox News Channel,
Mm.
outright big logo during the Hannity interview, because talking to Hannity in a room without the logo wouldn't be enough.
Well, and oh yeah, it was, and then you also Audi was several times. He was in the original car accident, and he was also, after the car accident, he was in an Audi. That was sort of noticeable. Um, so, so yeah, there was some product placement, and now that you think about it, yeah, and also vodka. There wasn't a name brand, but there was a lot of it drank in this movie.
Well, yeah, and the labels actually in bottles were all very different. And I think that was just a matter of showing the level of, trying to portray that level of alcoholism. Vodka's a very bland, goes with anything, drink it straight,
Hmm.
sooner when you're getting wasted type of drink.
Hmm.
I didn't really see that as a product placement other than calling it the devil, basically.
Well, well, one of the things that I bring up in this is that he's an atheist and he lives alone and everything. But so first thing, it starts out after the credits of death and destruction. It starts out with a debate of him debating a known Christian, and I can't remember the guy's name because yeah, I try not to remember these mega church guys' names, but he's a mega church owner, or sorry, church pastor. And I watched the debate, and the first thing I thought of, Bill Nye did a debate not too long ago against the founder and head of the Creation Museum. And I can tell you that Bill Nye never chanted anything about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And
Party on.
yeah, party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. I'm just like, really? Wow. Okay. And
Yeah, that was
also,
kind of blatantly trying to make the atheist look stupid up front, wasn't it?
yeah. And then, and they're trying to make this atheist look like, he's a heathen and all this kind of stuff. But you have to remember the opening credits also had Christian new metal. It wasn't even good Christian new metal. But it was Christian new metal. And it was, yeah, it's just like, you
I
know,
didn't notice.
um, And again, those opening credits started with 9/11, scenes of 9/11, and then other terrorist attacks, of Muslim terrorist attacks, not ISIS. So that was like, I am harping on this, but it's because it drove me insane at that first. So Kevin Sorbo's character hates God. He's not an atheist. I know atheists that are true atheists. I also know atheists people who claim to be atheists who are just angry at God because God did something. Kevin Sorbo's character is angry at God because his son died of cancer at age, what, 8 or 9, something to that effect? Young, not even close to teenage years. Not in double digits. And I can understand about being angry at God for bad things happening to good people and good things happening to bad people. I understand that, and there's not a whole lot of answers. So I can get why you would lose your faith, but he's not an atheist. He's angry at God, and there's a difference. And the name of his book, oh my, could it have been more
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
liberal bashing, aborting God? I'm just like, wow. I could not believe that. Yeah, well, it takes guts.
I mean, among other things, I'm not. I'm gonna say he is in that place. He is an atheist. He has a disbelief, which is different than I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe. I disbelieve. He used to
Mm-hmm.
believe and stopped, and the dis prefix is specific to that definition. And
Mm-hmm.
he reasons through it. Like a lot of the speech when he's not doing the stupid party on thing that they use to discredit their point of view, he makes lots of points I have heard plenty of atheists make about just logicking through
Mm-hmm.
how could this happen, even before he gets personal and shares the story of losing his son.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things is like watching when he got to that when he started being serious again and everything. He really made some good points that is like, wow, that you're not doing your movie any justice right here by making these points
Well, and the
because they're.
railing against organized religion. I
Hmm.
mean, I hear that as a reason
Hmm.
um, for people that are agnostic or atheistic, like just all the damage it's done. Actually, it's you might find interesting. One of my sons yesterday came to
Hmm.
me with, and we don't practice. Excuse me. We don't go to church. I don't do all that
Hmm.
teaching stuff. My kids, they can, if they choose a spiritual path, they can find it, explore it, and I'll help them learn whatever about it if they need that. But he had gotten into an argument online because someone was railing against organized religion as just being the worst thing ever, and it's only ever done damage, and how stupid it is, and people just buy into that crap. And he was like, they were railing against it just to be edgy, and that's
Hmm.
worse than just being bamboozled by somebody if that's what you think religion is. But some people might need it, and why shouldn't they have it? It doesn't make them stupid to believe in something and do good with it.
Well, Bill
So
Maher is one.
awesome. 17 years old came to me with that yesterday, and he is
So,
such a trolly
mhm.
edge lord that I
Well,
must have done
Bill.
something right.
Yeah, and that's good because here's the thing: Bill Maher is the same way. Bill Maher will call someone who believes in, and him and Christopher Hitchens. And I look. I'll be honest. I don't have. I am not a fan of either of them, especially Bill Maher lately. Sometimes he makes good points, but mostly he's a sexist guy who is an edge lord himself, who is still a child and never been funny. Um, but I want to talk about the fact that one of the things they brought up was the war and all that stuff that religions has caused. I will admit to this that there have been many of the wars are not strictly religious based. That there is a religious tone to them, but the Crusades come to mind. The Crusades were mostly about trade routes, but they used religion to get the common people to join up because the common person in medieval Europe wouldn't have gave two hoots or even known what a trade route was. Whereas, you know, saying that this religion's bad is a whole other thing. And it's the same with a lot of the Inquisition. Though it was a quote unquote religious thing, the Inquisition was also to gain money and power from these people that they had taken, especially Jewish people who had a lot of money, or tradesmen or stuff like that. One of the big inquisitions and why we have a fear of Friday the 13th was the Templars, and the fact that they used the Inquisition to take down the Templars because because the King of France owed the Templars a lot of money. Now, am I saying that every religious war is not is about something underlying? No. There has been religious wars about people who believed in two different things, and that is a problem. And Carl Sagan is someone that I admire, and his pale blue dot speech still moves me to this day because we have done a lot of we have done a lot of wrongs to ourselves for a lot of petty reasons. you know so this person over here doesn't believe in God but believes in Buddha or believes in Allah. Okay, so it doesn't matter. And I think organized religion does have some fault to blame because people get too hyped up and too fundamentalist, because there are fundamentalist Christians to this day. There are several, that we can quote in the past who have done atrocities over the last 20, 30 years. A lot of the mass shootings and stuff have that feel to it. There's been attacks on abortion clinics over religion. There's been murder over religion. So you have to, yes, religion does have its problems. Organized religion does have its problems. Faith is completely different, though. And so, that's one of the things is that I try to make people understand. Even the Pope, who is supposed to be, what's the term for the Pope that
Oh,
you know what I mean?
there's infallible as God's representative on earth or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that. He's still human, you know. Everybody who has been a pope is a human. Everybody who's been a preacher is a human, and we make mistakes. Even Paul said that when I'm following God, you can follow me, but when I'm not following Jesus, don't. I make mistakes. I make mistakes too. That's the thing. So, you have to take your religious leaders with a bit of your own understanding, and I think that's part of the problem, and we'll get into that in another episode, is educating yourself as a follower, because you need to be. I bet if I polled Christians at a local Baptist church of how many people have read the Bible at least once from cover to cover, and honestly tell me that story, I bet that not even a third have done that. And how
I
can
have in
you?
more than one version.
I've
And I'm
read
not even Christian, really, anymore.
I read the NIV, and then I've also read the Catholic Bible. Um, and so the Catholic
Oh,
Bible
it's
is
just
much
called
longer.
the Catholic Bible.
Well, it's the one I have is the third edition Catholic Study Bible,
Hmm.
which is in a hardcover edition. It's pardon me, it's very nice. I enjoy it.
See, I read the
Um,
New American. I read the King
mhm.
James. I
I
think there
can't
was
get
a
I
third
can't
one I don't remember.
I'm not smart enough to get through the King James. Not smart enough. The
Okay,
these, those, and thous just really mess with my brain.
really? Hmm.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a fan. That's why I'm not a fan of Shakespeare.
So a funny political-ish thing to say about all this. Um, we were talking about the Pope, and
Hmm.
in the wiki for the Pope, they list first incumbent as Saint Peter. I have never seen that word used that way, but
First incumbent, like
first incumbent.
okay. I'm trying to understand. I know. I'm sorry. I'm missing it.
He's the first one to hold the office. I mean,
Oh well.
and
Yeah.
right,
Oh yeah.
an incumbent is somebody who's already holding an office.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The word actually means necessary for someone as a duty or responsibility.
Okay,
as if
no,
like there's the
I under,
official regime, right?
right, and that yeah, I get you now.
But
I
it's like a
understand.
strange word to use because I mean, when St. Peter was around, the church wasn't an established political entity yet as it is now. Because it is like the Holy See is like a it's not a district, but Vatican is very politically interesting, and that is a completely
Mm.
independent entity with lots of power that can, you know, well, you don't want to get back into how they've funded certain activities, but
We can definitely discuss that at another date. But but I wanted to touch with that, you know. But for the most part, the speech is powerful. The speech is like, yeah, I know, Christianity has made a lot of mistakes in the world, and it's a great if you know, and if the character didn't come off as such a, as I put it, douche, you know, it's a great argument for atheism. I think the movie may be failing in its attempt to bring people to Christ. So
yeah, if you only watch the beginning,
yeah, and then of course you got then there's the scene where he comes after the speech. He comes home and he's alone in his apartment, and he says, "Hi, honey, I'm home," and he's alone. And it's like, yeah, because being atheist makes you truly a lonely person. And I hated that little trope there. Then we cut to his book launch party where he's getting drunk, and he's got a Russian model on his arm who is vapid and really not
I
caring. What did you think? What did you
I
think of
didn't
that
see it
kid?
that way at all because she kept walking away from him because he wasn't tolerable. He was being a pig. He wasn't. He couldn't even remember her name. He got so drunk, and she's supposed to keep being his arm candy, and it was just business. She seemed to have her shit together.
That's true. I will give you that. So I think they wanted her to come off vapid, but she didn't. And I
I
think
don't know. I don't see it written that way at all. I mean, she's like, I have
no,
to go to my shoot. I have my own job. Like, I'm not going to just go sleep with you. And she was trying to do his schmoozy thing, and I didn't see her as vapid at all. I mean, she tried to talk to his little clique,
hmm
his posse about what she does, and they treated her as if she wasn't important.
hmm
And so she's like, I'm out. Just because she didn't use the language properly, like I'm gonna go mangle instead of mingle. I don't think that made her look stupid at all. I think it made those people look like assholes when they cut her off when she was trying to speak.
and that's what I meant is I think they were trying. I think they somehow were trying to make her vapid because she wanted to talk about her modeling career. You are right. She actually had her shit together. You know, she taught. You know, she's like, I can't kiss you. He'll mess up the lipstick, and they're paparazzi. You
Yeah,
know, it's all about image, baby. You
but
know, and then
creating like her not falling for that and being treated poorly by them, and it was a bunch of the little atheist henchmen.
mhm,
I think that was the intent of the movie for her to look better than that.
right. So yeah, no. Then we get to the crux. No, I know I agree. I'm just like I'm thinking. I'm just like you're right, and I was wrong to say she was vapid, and it makes my head hurt to think how stupid I was at
Well,
that. No,
I mean, we perceive it differently, and that's interesting, and you can examine that personally
I.
later. How that
I,
happened.
I think vapid was the wrong term. I think that she was uncaring about what was going on in his life. So I think it was more, and it's not that she didn't care, it's just that she had her own life too, and he didn't care about her. And I think I was just misreading that scene. So that's one of the reasons I want to have a partner, and I have you, is because you can point out, it's like, no, you're wrong. Let me show you what I see. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
a woman's point of view in that portrayal of a relationship, I think, yeah, can
mm.
make some sense to have input on for sure.
And of course the true evil was there at the true evil of the world was there at that party. Hipsters. Sorry, I just, for those who know me know I have a hipsters. So I look, they were there. I couldn't stop myself. I just like I had to write that down. It's like, look, hipsters. So we get to the scene where Paul's driving, and his not his publicist, his agent or whatever, calls him up on the phone and is like, and they treated this girl so badly, and then it's like, hey, does she have a sister or a cousin? I'm like, really? Really, you're going to do that? So, okay, wow, okay. And he dies in the car accident. He dies for 4 minutes, and he has a near death experience where he sees his son, and his son tells him, let there be light, daddy, and everything else. And here I've got two. One is a humorous point, but my first point is this: why does it have to be like that? Why does it have to be some life death thing? Lewis was a Christian, stopped being a Christian, and was basically an atheist. And then through arguments and discussions with his friends, including J.R.R. Tolkien, first became a theist and then eventually became a Christian. And it was just talking and having communications and being rational. So I know for dramatic effect, that's what it was for. But it's one of those things where it's not something that's actually needed, in real life. Like I said, you could talk to people, and again, though you say I'm not, converting, I am trying to show why I chose my faith. I'm not trying to make you choose my
Right.
faith, but
And
right.
that's a big difference to me. So you didn't feel that he was an accurate portrayal of an atheist, and I can understand that. Um, so I think that character went as far as being anti-theist. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
his whole actions, his whole life, he was
Mm-hmm.
actually opposed to the belief.
Mm-hmm.
They actually addressed that, how he made fun of like his own family in public
Mm-hmm.
for holding on to their faith. So he was an
Mm-hmm.
anti-theist, which is a word that doesn't get used enough.
Mm. Maybe it's because and I think that's part of the problem is our language gets so muddled, and we lump agnostics, and it's like I had a friend of mine who was a agnostic, who was like, show me proof and I'll believe. I mean, Carl Sagan even said, if you give me definitive proof that there is a God, I will believe. You know, who Tim Minchin is another person who is considered an atheist and all this kind of stuff. But he said, if you give me proof that something exists or that something is different or real, I'll believe. So that's I don't want to say I don't want they're not atheists. It's more they're agnostics. They don't. You have to give them proof.
Right.
Okay, and so
But this guy was an
they're
anti-theist.
right. He was like, it does. They do not exist. You believing that they exist is horrible, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
true. Also, and my humorous point, I didn't know this movie was part of the MCU.
What?
Do you remember the part where he was leaving the tunnel of light? How did he leave?
Oh.
How did he fade? He turned to
Oh yeah,
dust.
yeah, yeah. The whole Thanos ash turning
Yeah,
thing.
it's like yeah.
And they did the like I don't want to go Doctor Who thing, and I'm like, this isn't. What do you? That's not gonna get me, Like,
It's like, but it's like Kevin Sorbo's character is snapped right out of heaven. Does Thanos have no shame? Even Hercules can't get it, won't survive the snap. And it's like, yeah,
you
I'm
feel
sorry,
like
I
they were
don't.
rushing at the end of the movie. Like the kids forgiving,
Hmm.
like, and for all the like not great actors, that older boy did do. He had a part to play that I think was well written. About an attitude a teenager would be giving you, like thinking you're going to come back and hurt his mom again,
Hmm.
having seen this shit before. But they forgive him so easily. Oh, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding, Dad. Welcome back. Ha ha. And like, oh, hell no. That shit would go on for months. At
Yeah,
least, probably the rest of his life, he would get
yeah.
shit from that kid.
That kid would always be giving him the side eye and making sure that yeah. I am sure that is the case. I personally, I was like, I don't have children, probably because I shouldn't. But yeah, I know, I agree. I do think they did rush that a bit.
It was the most unrealistic thing in the movie.
Yeah. Not true, because here's what. So Kevin Sorbo's in the hospital. He's got a concussion. All right. But he died in the ambulance for 4 minutes. So they're letting him go after an overnight stay.
They can't keep you. You can say I want to leave. They asked him to stay. He said no. That's the law.
I know. It just, he looked fairly well for someone who had died. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And,
Well, he had that
and,
blood clot, and shaking those around can do really things. Send you into a coma, come back out. Like that's not. That's actually not all that unrealistic compared to a teenager forgiving you, in my opinion.
and again, they don't even drive. They drive him to his house or whatever, and then he's alone. They don't stay with him, or have someone stay with him to make, because he's got a blood. Because one of the things that they talked about is he's got this blood clot, which is not brought up after he has a panic attack. Is not brought up again.
Yes, it is.
Is it brought up
When he
after the
has a
panic?
panic attack, the doctor comes back in the room and explaining, like, well, what'd you find? It's like, well, we looked and the clot has not moved, or that was nothing that caused this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of end up leading into it was, well, it could be a panic attack, um, which is also realistic. I have taken someone to the hospital more than once, and they have been given stroke protocol treatment,
Mm-hmm.
and it turned out to be a panic attack. So,
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that after the panic attack, after that episode of the panic attack, they don't bring that up again, especially considering the fact of what happens later on in the movie with his wife.
hmm well, yeah, the
That's
focus of the
not.
story kind of changes, but
Yeah. Um.
as long as he slows down and is careful, it's not going to move, and he's going to be okay. And he does do that
Mhm.
when he hooks back up with her because she's a good girl.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you know what? I'll be honest with you. First, off, when he has when they there's a scene now. For I believe not the atheist. Let me state this: the atheism thing is not what I'm about to discuss. Okay, when I say that he has a mental illness, he does. He has depression. He is self medicated
hmm
with the booze. Okay, that is not atheism. Atheism is not a mental illness. I want to be clear on that. I want to say, if you are an atheist or an agnostic or an anti-theist, that you have some mental illness. You don't. Okay, well,
But
you
it was
may,
a
but
well written character. I don't
yeah.
think those things were equated.
Right. I just, but I just wanted to be clear. Well, because when I initially, before we had this discussion, this is one of the reasons I wanted to have the discussion, is that I felt that he wasn't an atheist. He was just angry at God. But you've changed my view bit of that. So I'm having to change some of my focus points a bit. So it's like I'm doing this a bit on the fly, but I do want to address the fact that even if no matter what your belief system is, you should definitely seek. And according later on that he's seeing a therapist, must be the worst therapist on the planet. I'm just saying, because he has not gotten over well, you never get over the loss of a family member, but he is drinking himself silly, and it's a problem. It's a problem because it could kill him, you know. But I also love the fact that his wife comes up and says the word heck. I'm like, look, the only, let me be clear about how I feel the Bible is. The Bible says that you shouldn't use God's name in vain. It doesn't say that you can't use curse words. I'm just, that is a new thing. Hell is okay to say. I use the F word quite often. It is a favorite of mine, especially while driving. um, but in general, it's okay to curse. don't curse at someone. Don't call someone an MFR or whatever. But it's okay to use colorful, like, oh fuck, that's okay. It's fine. You're not going to hell for saying that.
So I told the story on this show about what happened with my youngest.
Mm-mm.
So I hear my kids game and they talk and they chat and there's a certain amount of there's cussing that happens and I'm like, they're teenagers, right? I'm not going to clamp down too hard. If it's an F bomb every 30 seconds, I'll not. Hey, come on. Now you're just being edgy. Just please, I don't want to hear that anymore for a while. Just lay off. But they were getting in this, God damn it, God damn it, God damn it. And I still have a little edge there where growing up
Yeah.
Catholic, like that's the taking the Lord's name in vain, you're going to go to hell. And I don't really believe that, but I believe it is more truly offensive to other people and disrespectful of their
Mm-hmm.
belief system, and you don't know. And so I was like, I sat him down, like, can we listen? I want to talk about this because I know you don't carry faith and everything, but there are people, and I used to be one that take their faith very seriously, and you taking God's name in vain. And in my head, it was using the word damn because it's a very serious thing that would cause
Mm-hmm.
to be damned is like the ultimate. That's the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody, um, and which I don't believe anymore. But um, I got through and like they stopped at least in front of me. Whatever, they quit using those kind of curses. And like the next day, I get an email from the school, and he's because they're watching his email for other purposes and found him dropping f bombs, and yeah, like wrong discussion. Now I mean, we already I thought had the where's appropriate and where's not, and you're already in enough trouble at the school that they're looking at your email, but. It was just really funny that the day after I was like, "Don't take the Lord's name in vain out of respect to other people. I have to deal with the school and the actual other profanity."
And some people, and here's the thing: it comes to respect at that point. I would just wanted to bring it up because his wife is like, "Oh heck," and I'm like, "Wow, no, we're not. No, that's no." And maybe her character was written that way to be that pure. I'm just like,
I think she was very. I think she was written that way. I think she was written. She was holding very, very tightly to her faith. It was the foil to his character being the protagonist, and being so anti-theistic and becoming a big, famous rich person over it, and his with the anger and the darkness, and she walked into the light figuratively. She held
no.
tightly to that.
And so it's fine. I overall it's just it was one of those. It's like it jarred me a little. It's like, oh heck, and I'm like, okay, fine,
And
all
she still has
right.
little kids at home that she's raising as Christian. You get so I mean, it's like when I was working at Disney. And I cuss like a sailor in real life all the time, but at work, I run over my foot with a 1,500-pound cart and say, Jiminy Crickets. Because it's like what becomes appropriate in your world.
Right. And again, if you're in a group of people and you a group of friends, and one friend doesn't mind damn or hell, for example, but really gets upset with the f bomb. Don't use the f bomb. It's just out of respect. But
Yeah, sure.
overall, there's a difference between respect and it's like it's not going to send you to hell if you say fuck. All right, just say it. All right. Yeah. Also, I have to say that his doorman in this movie, who we never see, but is obviously the worst doorman on the planet.
I don't know. Maybe he was just a decent guy and realized he might be dead drunk up there, and I don't want to be the one to find him, so I'll let his friends go.
That may also be true. I have to say, I enjoyed the stereotypical mobster turned preacher. That was very interesting. I enjoyed the conversation.
It was a great character idea, right? Like
Right.
ex-con, but the holy cow, like Joe Pesci-ish, and him using every slang catchphrase everyone knows from mobsters on cartoons, for God's sake.
He used the word whacked. I was just saying he used
Right?
like,
They whacked him talking about the crucifixion.
well,
And the Roman's like, they're Italian. I know all about that. You know,
like
oh.
like
Ratting on him. None of the apostles ratted it out where the body was. Like, that's
and
how
none
this
of
guy found his faith. It
or
was
or
cute.
and
It was just
it
a
was
little too much.
and it was but the substance, if you can get past it, was a very interesting, counterpoint to a lot of people's like, well, the apostles could have taken and hidden the body, and his was like, yeah, but there are no accounts of them. And he did use the term, I think, flipping or ratting them out and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And like, none of them flipped. Their story stayed the same. So it's a compelling
Judas already
argument.
hung himself. The traitor was
Yeah.
out of it.
But it's a compelling argument that, because all of the apostles did get tortured and killed. And so it's an interesting look at it going, I never, as me, it's not somebody that it's not something that I am look into, because I believe without having to have that extra thing,
Mm.
but having that extra thing, you go, that's not a bad argument.
And it was, uh, I mean, it wasn't great, but it was well written. I thought it was really good appeal to somebody questioning or wondering, because it wasn't like that. I had this epiphany, right? And he specifically was like, I didn't have an epiphany or nothing. It just occurred to me because I was reading the book. And he
Mm-hmm.
had his own little logic to it. And a lot of people come around to faith that way.
Mm-hmm.
In a difficult time or whatever, and they just, the right parallel, the right story gets them to them at the right time. And then it was believable. And it doesn't have to be like, the heavens opened up and shined upon me and I realized the grace of God, which is horseshit or sounds like horseshit to anybody who's never had anything like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a well written character, if you pardon all the cheese.
And the conversion and the talking to the kids and then the baptism was all very well done. And I liked how they did a contrast of, how he was always wearing black, and then they contrasted it to him wearing lighter colors. And his apartment was always dark, even in the daytime, and how it was lighter in the, how
Crooked
where it was
pictures and dirty
right,
mess and yeah.
right, and how it was and how it contrasted to them being at his ex-wife's house, and how bright and
Oh well, it
everything.
was a very suburban. It was what he left. I mean, I don't even know the. I mean, I guess the light and dark thing is effective, but for me, it was reflecting the lifestyle.
And it's that too, but I like, but looking at it in
And
a
his
movie
"Hi, honey,
con.
I'm home"
Mhm.
to me was a somewhere in there still acknowledging missing that going home to suburbia.
Yeah, that I think it's that, but it's I for me I felt it was more the loneliness. But I was talking on a technical side
Mm.
that I like the contrast of that. So I wanted to, again, I'm going to be fair with this movie, and I'm going to be fair with any of the movies we see if there's something good. Now, now we're back at the apartment, and he just gave the exclusive interview of basically where he converted, and his agent basically fires him. First off, I didn't know an agent could fire you, but okay. But more
Well,
importantly,
yeah.
the agent is silly. Because think about if Dawkins or if Hitchinson said that they had had a come to Jesus moment, how
Oh
many
yeah.
books they would sell.
Oh yeah. It was a very short sighted, stupid thing to do. Like you just changed course. You know.
Yeah, I mean, because at least for the first couple of books, those books are going to sell because the believers are going to be like, well, what caused him to do that? Is this some sham? You know, or did he have a faith? And then they could point to this person. They could point to this and use this as ammunition to the others. And the non-believers are going to be like, what kind of madness is this? I need to see what's going on and see where because people love a carnival show, and this or a train crash. We all talk about it, but people slow down to see the car crashes on the interstate as much as they shouldn't. So seeing this kind of explosion in someone's life and seeing what happens to it, yeah, it would have made millions. He may have not gotten his own personal talk show, but he would have definitely been on the talk circuit, and there would have been a lot of interviews. And so I don't see where yeah, he was definitely in the wrong. And then of course saying, "Oh, you were just a business partner. We were never friends." I'm just like, okay, fine. I did have
I
now
mean,
here's where
it's not very unrealistic. I don't know.
well, oh, about the business partner thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you can
I
pretend to
understand
be
that
your
part.
friends. You're making money. It's all good times.
Right. And
And
I
you're putting
but
up with him being a jackass and lying for him all the time, and
mm,
I'm out. I mean, people would do that.
true. I think I think he was being short-sighted when it came to the money part, which was the reason he was leaving, is because you're not going to make me any money now.
Right.
And,
I
and
mean, not necessarily short sighted because it may or may not have worked turning tail.
mhm,
So, get out while the getting's good. His golden goose is dead.
yeah,
It was risky.
it was. I understand your point there. The app, now we're going to go into, now we've done the conversion and the movie should technically be over at this point. Um, but we've got a whole lot more movie to go. So I'm going to breeze through a few of these. First off, the coming up with the app thing, I'm just like, okay, I like the idea of the app once they explained it, but when she was talking about the light in the sky and have NASA's like, I don't think NASA's going to notice. I don't think it. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I could be wrong, and I'm not a scientist, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
In a gathered concentration, there are LED lights on your phone. It could be pretty bright.
Okay.
Like you can see from space when blackouts happen in cities, and it's because of concentrations in places of where the light is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're talking about the longest night of the year. So depending if it's also like a new moon on the hemisphere they're focused on, I think it could be visible from space.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but enough people seems feasible.
Okay. But yeah, so I like the idea of the app in some respects, where they talk about how it would like give money to the food banks. It would connect you to a local church in your area to where you could talk about Christ.
Mm.
Um, they're not forcing a conversion; they're just having a conversation. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with having conversations. So, um, we've had that discussion about this.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also had the discussion. Now, I'll be honest, for the most part, the romantic subplot I thought was kind of cute. I thought it was
Me
cute and
too.
sweet. It
And
was
the app
sweet.
thing comes into that for me because even though he has been at that point still such a you know a jerk to her, and she kept leaving him and supporting him, and it's
Hmm.
so I related to that. It like
Hmm.
I'm that person. Like I can be like really really mad at somebody and still like I have this great idea for something to do to help them with some project, and I will call them and tell them and help set up the website, and I was like, I had this good idea, and like that she still came to him that way and that teamwork thing, and like we could do this thing, and was excited about that. Like that, I related to her in that. I don't know
Hmm.
how else to explain it, but that was like, oh, okay. I mean, it was already kind of obvious they were gonna end up. He had to get his
I,
redemption, so he'd get her back. But
yeah.
I like that little touch of something that could happen. And she already had a charity, so it was believable.
Yeah. No,
Or a
and again,
therapy. Hers was some kind of therapy outreach, right?
Yeah, right. It was a therapy outreach, and earlier in the movie, we didn't touch on this, but earlier in the movie, before they shot hoops, which is common in these movies, um,
Oh, that's one of those lifetime movie things. Yeah.
yeah, is his son wanted Kevin Sorbo's character Saul. The name has not escaped me that his name is Saul, but his name that he wanted to go to Haiti to fill out to basically help out with creating water systems and stuff like that. And Kevin Sorbo was kind of belittling it to some degree. Is like, what can people in Haiti not dig wells and stuff like that? And I'm just like, really, are they trying to show that all atheists are assholes, or is that just you? And
Yeah, that
it
was
does.
crappy.
Yeah, and I think it is kind of reflective that in some respects it does show that people that aren't it gives us that people who aren't believers aren't good people or are only in for itself. And I know a lot of atheists that are very good people that they look at me as like, well, I don't need. They basically say I can be a good person without having to worry about a cop watching over me,
Hmm.
because that's how they see it, and that's perfectly fine. But they're good people. So, um, of course, after they announce that they're getting remarried, she immediately has a seizure and goes to the hospital. And oh my God, it's Travis Tritt as the doctor. I'm sorry, I just one of those things like, oh my God, it's Travis Tritt. It's like, what does he do? I thought he had a career singing. Oh wait, I guess not. So
I
Travis Tritt,
didn't even
uh,
notice.
yeah, it's fine. You're not from the South, so you weren't lambasted with a bunch of Travis Tritt stuff back in the 80s and 90s. It's okay. But Travis Tritt comes in and he basically tells her that she has staged, and I need to look up what stage 4 means, but obviously it's bad.
It's
But
metastasized, and yeah, you're not
stage
pretty much
4
coming back. Yeah.
brain cancer. And the type of brain cancer she has is inoperable and incurable. There's like a 5% chance that this chemotherapy will work, and help out, or less. And she takes the chemo. She doesn't just try to pray it away. I appreciate that.
Hmm.
I appreciated that a great deal in this movie because I was worried that they're going to pray it
And
away.
they showed how hard chemo is,
Mm-hmm.
and her
Mm-hmm.
working through it. Yeah.
And then of course they had the wedding first, and then the chemo, and Diane Warwick was there. Though I do have questions about Diane Warwick being there.
Yeah.
Mostly,
Yeah.
what wasn't she part of the Psychic Friends network?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah, kids, those who are the younger audience who don't know who any of these people are, that's what the Google's for. Just look them up. But yeah, so she ran this 900 number where you could talk to a psychic. It went out of business
There are
because
Christian psychics.
there are, I admit, but it was a little weird. But it was nice. The song was pretty. I didn't listen to all of it because I just
Oh, it wasn't
couldn't.
very good. I thought it was bland as hell. I was like,
Well,
really, Dion? Come on. You had so much more soul than this. I don't know what you're doing. Sold your soul to Jesus, apparently, and then your music goes away.
it's like, yeah. So, but I was like, and then Sean Hannity shows up, and you know what? Sean Hannity comes off as being rational. I
Right?
it's I, oh my God. My brain nearly exploded. I was like, wait, Sean Hannity rational?
That was, yeah, well done.
Okay, and obviously he can act rational even if he isn't. So it works out well. Uh, the problem is that I think the part of the problem with this movie is it shows that if Sean Hannity can come off rational in this movie, which it's not it's not a rational movie to begin with, but it comes off as a rational individual asking interesting and hard questions to them when they were pitching this idea, that they you know, that maybe Sean Hannity is a huckster, and this act of being all in all of who he is on Fox News is just an act.
Hmm.
So that, that's a danger. Um, I want to talk about the cancer thing for a second, and I'll get a little personal. My mother passed away from cancer, and it's hard. It's been 10 years since last October. It was 10 years. So it was not painful to watch, but it made me understand. The one thing that got me through both my parents passing away in short succession and their illnesses together was my faith. And to be fair, I was also drinking a lot of booze as well. Um, but how she explained prayer and how prayer works, I found it was interesting. It was a good example of how prayer is, and how, Jesus prayed 3 times to take this cup away from me, but thy will be done. And God's will was done. Jesus was crucified. If it's God's will to take someone, it's God's will. And it sucks and it hurts. It's painful, and you don't want that, because we want to be. It's what the little boy says. I don't care about heaven, mommy. I want you not to die, because we can be selfish in our prayers. When we want someone to get healthy and everything, it's partly because we want them not to be in pain. And heaven is supposed to be a place with no pain. And it sucks that we lose that person, but they are no longer in pain. So it makes some sense. I did hate the ending of this movie, however, because that was just cheap as hell. All right, I'm done.
What? You should be right on there. She got welcome home and gratefulness for her good work.
I just felt it. It's like I honestly felt this subplot in the whole. I liked that speech about prayer, but it could have been done somehow else. You know, I wasn't a fan of it because I felt it was cheap.
Hmm.
And again, we talked about this earlier, but then you talked about the young lady who was from Pakistan, who was. The story is that she was married off at age 14. She ran away from her abusive husband, and her father said she couldn't she couldn't leave him, and that her father beat her, and then that if she leaves him, that they will have to kill her with an honor killing. That is, we were talking about the whole movie. They talked about the evil of ISIS, and ISIS is evil, but Muslims aren't.
No, but those situations that she described happen, and pitting one
Mm,
against the other, religion wise, is kind of offensive, um, but not unrealistic, and it is the kind of thing that works to bring people to convert,
mm,
because they can blame the other practitioners, because that's why they insist on those cultural things. Right? They justify it with their religion, and then that spreads out to you get out of there, you're not going to hold on to that faith when that's the part of it you were taught.
right. No, no. And I get that, and I do. I just, if they had stuck with, I think that's where they kind of bobbled this a little. If they had stuck with just ISIS versus their faith instead of trying to do this compare and contrast
Yeah.
of, I think they would have done a lot better. Overall, I like the movie. I mean, would I go out and pay money to go see it? No, this was on Amazon. Like
Yeah.
if it was on television, it's an okay movie. It's not. It's well acted for the most part. Even the kids aren't horrible actors. They're not professional, but they're not bad. They come off as genuine. The entire thing comes off as trying, and sometimes they try too hard. But overall, it's not a horrible message. There are a lot worse movies out there that are Christian movies that have horrible
Why
messages.
would you tell someone to watch this?
Watch it for the conversion. Watch it for talking about the what prayer means.
Hmm.
Talk about, watch it for to see that, love still exists in Christians, even though she was a bit snarky. She there were a few times where one of those
He was
things
real
like,
shit. She had every reason to be bitter.
yeah, I get that. I'm just like, but some of those lines you just go, wow, you've been holding a long time for that one. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like the one is like, oh, I think I think I've he was handing her a jacket while he was
Yeah,
being wheeled out, and it's like, oh, I'm done taking your baggage. And it's
yeah.
like, okay, and now I get that she was bitter and everything, but it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, and what?
I just related to it. I found it realistic. Like he was taking her even
No,
then for granted and just trying to hold this for me. Mm-mm, you do not get. Just because I'm here because you fucking died, right? And we have children together does not mean I am here to serve you.
mean I get to hold your jacket and be in your
Mm.
circus show. Yeah, okay.
And be in the show with all the press and be dismissed by your staff. Nope.
What did you think? What did you think about how quickly his sassy best friend, how quickly she changed?
Um. Well, you don't see it happening, but then it's like, oh, she's still there, and then she explained it. So that
Hmm.
was, I think, fairly decently done. You only have time to cover so much in-depth stuff about so many characters.
Right.
She's like, all right, your agent left, and I decided whether to stay or not, and I thought what you were doing was good, and I decided to stay, and it's inspired me to take another look at my faith. That kind of thing does happen. I
Hmm.
mean, when you're surrounded by people of faith or somebody converts, they always drag some people with them.
You make it sound like I'm dragging people to hell. It's like,
Uh, you know,
but over. I mean, again, it's not bad. It's not hateful. I have to say, it's not overly hate. It as far as Christianity versus even atheism or whatever. I don't think it's overly hateful because most atheists would look at that depiction as like, well, that's not an atheist, that's someone who's angry at God. So to
I
be
don't know
angry,
that anyone has anything to get out of it. It wasn't terrible. Christians might enjoy it. There were parts of it I even liked. I don't know if it's accomplishing the goal of conversion or waking anybody up who is anti theistic.
no. And again, it's no, it's preaching to the converted already, but I think some of the statements about prayer, or explanations about prayer is very useful. I think the conversion conversation, if you can get past, I'm sorry, what was it?
The
Father,
stereotype.
sorry, yeah, the father, Sarah,
Vinny?
dude, no, what was
Wasn't
the
his name
character's
actually
name?
Vinny?
Yeah, it was Vinny. I think.
Yeah.
What's the character's name from Saturday Night
Oh,
Live?
Father Guido Sarducci.
Yeah,
I
father's.
love him.
Yeah, but even Guarducci didn't sound like this. Like, so, if you can
Pretty
get past this,
close. Pretty close.
and he also smoked cigarettes and drank booze. I love
Yeah.
it. Anyways,
Well,
we're down, but it's one of those situations where I feel it was a decent movie. If you're converted, it's not a horrible watch. It's not, it's not like Saving Christmas. Uh, we will get to that. I promise. I still have my notes on that one. We will get to that one. But overall, it's not hateful. It's not mean spirited. It's trying to, prove a point of that Christianity is about love. And even at the end where she passes away, and everything, uh,
Spoiler.
yeah, whatever. I think we've pretty much spoiled the movie. But she passes away at the very end of the movie. They're singing Silent Night, and it's very touching and everything. Part of me would like to see if he continued his faith with his two boys. Considering the fact that he's now lost two people to cancer. But I think it's a not a hateful movie. I would give it 2 out of 5 stars. It's not a great movie, but it's not horrible. It's kind of middling. It's a Lifetime movie. You're right. It's a Lifetime or a
Yeah.
Hallmark movie.
Seemed very
It's
Yeah. Good production, but made for TV.
Yeah, though it was released in the movie theaters.
Right.
So next week we're going to talk about religion, as that's our job, but we're also going to talk about politics. That's also, but we're going to talk about that's also part of the gig. But we're going to talk about science because we brought it up here, and one of the reasons it came to me, it came to me in a vision last night was because I noticed that even though they were praying, but they were also doing science and experimental, medical treatment that may or may not work.
Uh huh.
And, and I think it's important that we discuss science and discuss religion and discuss politics.
Okay.
Um, so next week, that's what we're going to be discussing, and we'll be back at our normal time at 12 noon, and we'll try not to be, to almost an hour and a half long. So
Right.
I will work on some notes and stuff like that for us. But in the meantime, so I want to thank you for joining us here at Heresy and Hearsay. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. We don't have Facebook, YouTube, and we're on iTunes. And we also have a website at heresyandhearsay.com where you can listen to these as well. Give us a 5-star rating if you listen to us on iTunes, or give us a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube. Sorry. And I apologize. And September,
Please go today to Patreon at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay. $2 a month can help keep us making this show. Thanks for joining us. Bless your heart.
bless your heart.